Okay, so as reluctantly promised, I'm going to give you my reflections for day 6. And if you saw the Oracle Fest video for this, it's all about decoding dreams. And so I realized that I can't just tell you I had a dream, and I actually have to share the dream in order to show you some of my reflections about it. And it's a little uncomfortable because I have had two, I would say, more standout, remarkable dreams in the last few days. And one was that I was looking at like a field of pheasants, and they were so many that they were all toppling all over each other. And it was really interesting. I was sort of amused by them, and they were very chatty. They were talking quite a lot. And yeah, and it's interesting because pheasants for me have been a sign of potential romantic connections on the way. And a good friend of mine, she and I have been seeing so many pheasants within the last few weeks. And they are popping up everywhere. And so it's very interesting to see a whole, and I'm seeing them often in symbols and in art, but also in person, in reality, like on fields or things like that, which is not uncommon. But certainly the amount that it has happened is very uncommon, at least to me, very uncommon to see as many and as much as I have. I was even sitting on a bus, and then someone was talking about a pheasant for like 5 minutes, and it was the most bizarre thing because I thought, well, I don't even hear people talking about pheasants often either. It's so random. And I try not to eavesdrop, but there was no choice on this. It was a very cramped bus. Um, so I felt very like amused by them. There wasn't a lot of storyline to this. It was more like this scene of like, oh, all these pheasants all clambering on top of each other. So it felt to me like a signal that there's going to be an abundance of connection and love. And uh, I also would see them as a sign of like fertility or like vitality as a human, like just to feel alive with the stuff of that, of life force. And so it was a very positive sign to see that. The other dream I had, which requires some assessment or some, curiosity at least, and I don't even know if I've worked it all out yet, but I had this dream where someone's child was coming up to me and like asking for milk from me, from my body. And I haven't had a baby, so I cannot give them milk. And it was so interesting because they kept reaching for me and grabbing for me. I said, I can't do that for you. That's not something I can do. And they were like, yeah, yeah. And they were like, this is what I want. And I said, but I haven't had a baby. I can't. That's not how that works. This is how, and I explained to them the process. And then they were still like very, very demanding. And it was very bizarre. And then I had this funny experience today where my friend's daughter kept like pulling on my shirt. And he's like, what are you doing? She kept pulling on my shirt, almost like she was like going to reach for or trying to lift it up. And she was sitting in my lap. It was very bizarre. I think she's accidentally intuitive, as so many kids are so open. Maybe she was picking up on something that I needed to see or process about this to be able to talk to you all about it now. It was so funny. Um, and it's interesting because I don't often sit with like I really want a child, but I have been hearing a lot lately that people are like, you will be a really good mother, or like we see you being a very like good mother. And my sister, is a midwife, so you think, well, she's got a lot of information and stuff, and then she can take care of all that business without kind of the pressure being on me per se. Um, and I'm not in a romantic relationship or a partnership where that would even be a thought at the moment anyway. And so it's a very interesting dream to receive. Like, does this have to do with like provisions? Does it have to do with actual child rearing? Does it have to do with like, as I'm telling you this back now, I can see, I wonder if part of this is saying, yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can, as like you can, and therefore you can allow the thought of you want to, because so much of me is like, no, unless there's a really special partner in my life, I don't even want to entertain it that much, because then you're more so just disappointed, or you just sort of look at like, oh well, that's cool. I want that, but can't have it. What are you going to do? And so, yeah, that's interesting to think of it that way. And this is why I was obviously uncomfortable to share, because it feels like a very deep part of me, which is also telling me maybe there's a bit of a fear of acknowledging that desire as well. Could be showing me a little bit something that I'm avoiding, which is the feeling of longing for, or willingness, or even feeling ready. I think the idea of like, yes, you can, is more about trying to prepare me for readiness, in some kind of way, or that it's so natural for me. Why am I not seeing it that way? I'm seeing it kind of more like, oh, I don't know, it'd be a lot, or it'd be different, or something. So I didn't feel a fear during it. So I definitely wasn't scared about providing in that way. It was kind of just like, oh, I can't. Like I definitely felt um, like, oh, that's so precious, and it's not my job in that situation. It wasn't like my child um in the dream, but I also felt like almost like I was disappointing the child or something, um which is also very interesting. And so perhaps it's a wondering whether, yeah, whether I'm the, yeah, whether I'm feeling disappointed or something. It's curious because it doesn't feel like quite that, but there is something circling around the beliefs of maybe readiness, or the idea of capability. Like I'm not capable of that. Like, yeah, you are. Wait, am I? It's sort of like an interesting thought to look at. So that would be, I think, more closely where it's showing up in my life right now. And let me go back to the pheasant one and think, like, what is the pheasant's message? So I'm going to just tune into what is the pheasant's message, because when I see an animal in a dream in abundance, I really ought to have asked this ahead of time, because I had this dream a few days ago. But the pheasant, what is the pheasant of that dreams, or the crowd of pheasants message for me? Yeah, it's saying to like widen my field, and to socialize, and to be like thriving in connection, to like allow an abundance of connection. So that it makes sense. It was an abundance of connection. It was a whole bunch of pheasants all with each other in a very like happy, amorous type of way. So amorousness, a very nice quality to have an abundance of. So that's what I'm feeling from that message. um okay, so these are my quick reflections. I do still have to pack up the rest of my life here in Scotland, and it is 9 9:50 p.m. And yeah, we're not ready. We're not ready, but we will be ready. So I will see you all tomorrow, the next day that I'm doing this. Sunday is when I will be back for our next YouTube Live. So I will be back YouTube Live on Sunday, plus Zoom room open for question and answers from our Trusting Your Visions participants, the Star All Access members. Go to oraclefest.com to sign up for the whole thing, and to be let into the more intimate part of this journey in the group format. So see you there.